thanks so much for joining us. This is Jonathan Armstrong from Caudry. With me is Eric Sinrod. This is our almost annual TechLaw10 tradition of doing 5 topics that each of us think we should look out for the year ahead. We don't prepare in advance, so we normally end up with 7 or 8 because we agree on stuff. So here goes for the annual tradition for what must be about the 15th time, I guess. Over to you, Professor. What have you got for number 1?
Professor, my University of Michigan football team just won the national championship yesterday. So go blue, go Wolverines. Yes, Eric Sinrod from Dwayne Morris. It's true. We do not rehearse with one another in advance what our topics will be. And I have 5. They're not in any particular order of priority, but I've decided to start with one that I haven't done in the past, just because why not? 2024, it's a new year. I'm feeling good. So my first topic is greater efficiency, Jonathan, when it comes to legal costs. How? Using technology, because this is TechLaw10, appropriately, appropriately, to make legal costs more affordable for those we love, our clients. That's my number 1, Jonathan. What say you?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And that probably leads into my number 1, which is AI. And obviously, it's TechLaw10, not TechLaw 720. So we'll have to pick aspects of AI. But one of the aspects I think is going to be quite interesting is, as I've said before, I'm on the New York State Bar Association AI task force. And I know that there'll be more concentration on things like you suggest, like using technology to enable the more efficient administration of justice using AI. Just before the holidays, the courts in England and Wales issued a paper on judicial use of AI. Obviously, the whole technology to enable the administration of justice thing is hot news in the UK because of the Post Office Horizon scandal and how the allegation is that TAR, technology-assisted discovery, wasn't used efficiently, and that led to injustice. So I think that we're going to definitely have a focus on the use of technology in the law. I think there are wider AI things to consider as well. Some of them, obviously, we've discussed in earlier podcasts, so I'd cross-reference back to them. I think we're going to see big issues with antitrust. I think antitrust competition law regulators are going to realize that AI, in some respects, is a monopoly or an oligopoly. So I think we'll see antitrust regulators become very concerned about a preponderance of AI tools, AI applications being in the hands of a relatively small number of technology businesses. And is that frustrating market entry? Is that distorting the market, et cetera, et cetera? I think we'll also see concerns about nation state involvement in AI as well. And I know that we've discussed replica AI previously. There's increasing concern, I think, about the way in which bots can be used by bad actors, including nation states, for intelligence gathering and to try and make people do things. Obviously, the horrendous case of a criminal case in the UK where an individual maintains that he was instructed by a bot to break into Windsor Castle and kill the Queen. I think we're going to regrettably see more of those cases. We're going to see more allegations of nation state interference using AI. And obviously, it's an election year for you. It's an election year for us. We're likely to see that interference there as well, I think.
Thank you. So I'm going to skip ahead to my topic number 3, and I'm going to pass over number 2 because topic number 3, not in any order. Frankly, if we'd done them in order of priority, or at least if I had, it might have been AI. But artificial intelligence, obviously, this train is now way out of the station. And while AI has massive utility, and we've talked about that, it does cause great fear and concerns. Is AI accurate Is it reliable? Will it take the place of we humans in terms of employment and other functions? Chief Justice Roberts of our Supreme Court recently came out with his report on the state of the Supreme Court and the law in the United States, and he skirted around some issues that a lot of us cared about. There are worries about our Supreme Court and its public perception. Poll numbers are pretty low in terms of respecting the Supreme Court right now. But the one thing he touched on is concerns about AI in the legal profession. And interestingly, as you know, I teach at two different universities. 2 years ago, let's say, we hardly even talked about AI when I was teaching my tech law course. I just concluded last semester teaching tech law. We were talking about AI nonstop for good reason. You pointed out 2024 is an election year. Wow, we thought 2020 was crazy here. Fasten your seatbelts, my friends. It's going to be a bumpy ride, lots of turbulence. So, okay, so that might have been your number one. That was my number three. I've now given two topics: greater efficiency and legal costs. We've both done AI. Now it's back to you.
Yeah, personal liability, I think, is one. So, for people involved in the tech industry and for other directors and officers of corporations, I think we've seen a trend on both sides of the Atlantic to focus on individuals, because a lot of regulators, a lot of prosecutors think that if we prosecute the corporation, it's just marked down as a cost of doing business. If we prosecute individuals, then the market takes notice. So obviously, we've discussed cases like Sullivan, Abarca before on this podcast. SolarWinds would be another case more recently where the US authorities are looking at the conduct of individuals, and I think that's a trend that's going to take off more in 2024.
Very succinct, thank you. And my third topic, which was my second topic, but again, the sequence doesn't matter. I'm going to steal your thunder for a change, Jonathan, because, and we can be brief on this one because we spent a lot of time swimming in these waters. You're probably thinking, what am I going to say? Data privacy and compliance continues to be a massive issue. Nod your head. I'm right.
Yeah.
I'm stealing your thunder. Legal teams are constantly, and a person like Jonathan Armstrong in particular, and me too, we're constantly seeking to stay on top of evolving state, federal, and of course, international regulations and laws when it comes to data privacy and compliance. And it seems to be a moving target, and it will continue to be in 2024, I think. Do you?
Yeah, definitely. And that was on my list as well. And I feel if I had a bell, I'd ring it. So we're up to about 4.23 billion euros worth of fines under GDPR as we sit here. As we always say, those figures are unlikely to be accurate because many regulators don't report real time, but we've got about 2,500 cases that have led to fines in the GDPR zone. And I think one of the things that we're seeing more of is the innovative use of GDPR for people, as a proxy for pre-action discovery, as a type of DDoS attack to sort of slow down corporations. We're definitely seeing more aggressive subject access requests under GDPR, and we're seeing more inventive litigation. As just one example, this morning, the courts in Europe are looking at a case involving some pharmacists in Germany, where effectively the pharmacists are suing each other because one of them says that another has breached GDPR. And because they've breached GDPR, they've gained a competitive advantage, et cetera, So this whole connection, as we've said, between technology and compliance is definitely coming to the fore, and people using data privacy rights in more inventive ways. So data litigation is definitely on the rise as well.
Right. And for those of you who don't know, DDoS is distributed denial of service attack. Okay. My fourth topic, is going to circle back to a subset. It's interesting. You did a mini tour de force on AI, but I'm so glad you left out this one just so I can say something on it.
Yeah.
AI copyright challenges. Yeah.
Yeah. Good one.
Witness the New York Times suing ChatGPT maker OpenAI for copyright infringement for quote unquote wholesale usage of its content without permission. And AI, oftentimes, sort of combs the internet to bring information together and package it for you in a nice, neat way. But what if sometimes the content that's being used, the meat that's being pulled into what's displayed in your response to your query, let's just say on ChatGPT, is copyrighted material, wholesale copyrighted material. And of course, their defense is being made to that, saying, no, it's not wholesale usage of information. It's an amalgamation. It's packaged in a certain way. It's unique, and therefore it's not copyright infringement. But this is, now pending in litigation here. And if it turns out that these copyright infringement allegations hold up, it could slow things down in a big way. It could get very complicated, or it could go the other way. But it has been teed up. I'm sure you followed this as well, Jonathan. I find it quite interesting.
No, absolutely. And I wasn't being rude by reaching for my phone, but just absolute hot breaking news in the UK,
Sure.
which is relevant. OpenAI has told UK lawmakers, according to our friends at MLEX, that it would be impossible to train its AI models without using copyright materials. Limiting it to the public domain would not, quote, provide AI systems that meet the needs of today's citizens. So effectively, what OpenAI seem to be saying to the UK Parliament is, give us a pass from all copyright legislation for the greater good so that we can train our models to do better, which, yeah, sorry to take my glasses off and interrupt your train of thought, but
no,
I think that's a wow as well to me. Are we really saying that we're going to, rip up copyright legislation just to help out the tech bros?
Wow. Well, that's going to be very interesting to see how that pans out because, they're making that point, but what about the copyright holders?
Exactly.
Those who created the original expression of the idea of the work.
Yeah.
As
And
it
presumably don't get rewarded under this new scheme. So, if you're Getty, for example, and you spend whatever you spend, $100 million acquiring your photo library, it's a free-for-all and you don't get compensated.
Well,
it's almost like a sort of, I don't know, a Russian nationalization project where you acquire assets for the benefit of the state and then give them to oligarchs.
Well, and how about the pharmaceutical companies who spend billions of dollars developing vaccines and medications?
Yeah.
And of course, it's to the greater good that we have those medications and vaccines. But does that mean their investment in creating these becomes nil, as you would say over there, or null and void, as we would say, because it's for the greater good, and they don't get to reap the reward of their investment put into it. So it's going to be a tricky balance. Well, all right. I think that was my fourth topic. Maybe that would be a whole entire podcast at some point. But go ahead. What's your fourth?
Yeah. My fourth is slightly off the wall. I don't think we've discussed it before. Operational resilience. So this is a very much a sort of theme that's emerged from financial services regulators, particularly, where they've said that if you're a organization that needs to be resilient because you're a banking provider, for example, or part of the financial system, then you have to prove that you're resilient. So it's a bit like it's a little bit like the obligation to be secure under GDPR as a sort of proactive obligation rather than after the event, but it's expanded into all sorts of other areas as well. And I've spoken at a couple of operational resilience conferences recently, and And most of the financial services organizations in the audience say, well, our biggest operational resilience risk is actually cyber. We have started to see some fines. Some of them are slightly trivial in causation. So one is a cleaner unplugs a server at a bank to put her vacuum cleaner in, and the whole bank is unable to make payments and cash points closed down, etc., etc. And obviously the regulators are saying, well, you've got to take more precautions, and as a minimum, provide a different socket for the cleaner and put, do not unplug next to the server. And I know that's slightly jocular, but we've seen obviously that whole move to operational resilience in things like the US, in things like NIST frameworks, in things like the NIST 2 directive in Europe, expanding the original NIST directive to more sectors. And it seems to me that more and more regulators are getting interested in this whole topic of making organizations prove that they are resilient to cyber attacks, cleaners unplugging servers, and all sorts of other IT, principally IT and technology related risks. But one of the issues there, I think, is many organizations haven't got core competence on their board to assess those risks. So there's a study last year by EY saying that I think the majority of US Fortune 100 organizations have open positions for a director who understands cyber and tech related issues. And so the worry I have is that regulators, particularly, are concentrating more and more on the corporation ought to be able to assess its risks. But how does it do that? It might be able to engage outside consultants to help the board assess those risks, but the board needs somebody there in the room as well that can say, that can sense check. Just as we have boards that always have at least one board member who's financially competent to check what the auditors are telling the board. So I think 2024 will be a year when operational resilience will increase as a topic, but it'll just highlight the fact that we need boards to be more technically competent and fit for the modern age.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, we're coming around the bend, folks. We're now on our topic number 5. Let's see, I'll try to be succinct just in the interest of time. I know we're past our 10. We're going to be talking about that pesky topic that comes up from time and again, social media, right? In 2024, I predict we will continue to be navigating free speech rights, privacy rights, dealing with hate speech. And then, of course, I think we'll still be considering here in the US, Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act, the CDA. For those of you who are not aware, it generally provides, it was enacted by our Congress in 1996 in order that these fledgling internet companies, internet service providers could succeed and grow and be good for our economy. Of course, now some of these companies are the most highly valued monetarily companies in the world. And Section 230, I'm being a little bit roundabout, but Section 230 provides that essentially internet service providers are not liable or responsible for the content posted on their sites by others, even if it's inaccurate, et cetera. And we've been navigating that a bit in more recent times. It came up in the prior election year, 2020. A lot of stuff came up that people believe was designed to give misinformation to influence how others might ultimately vote. But we've had problems with false information relating to medical issues and others. And I think that'll be something we will have to continue grappling with. And, when the major social media companies have testified before Congress, the members of Congress have demonstrated, not everybody, but some of them, a complete ignorance, and even in terms of how social media works as a matter of technology and interaction with the public. So we're grappling with this. I think we will continue to, and that's my fifth topic.
No, really good topic. And we've already experienced some issues here with that. So a deep fake video alleged to be of the Mayor of London was circulated, giving misrepresenting his views on social media. So we're already seeing interference with elections using deep fake plus social media, and that clearly is a concern. My final one was ransomware, which I know we've talked about before, but it's this always mutating and evolving plague on society, if you like. I think we'll continue to see all of these mutations with these, an Ocean's 11 gang of the bad, these super groups, if you like, of social engineers and technologists and money mules. And I think, unfortunately, this means that we're going to have a rough year again. Coupled with that, of course, the world events, which mean that sometimes nation states get involved in ransomware as well to foment trouble in the virtual world, to mirror that in the real world, and to raise cash for arms, etc., etc. So I'm a bit pessimistic about the nature of ransomware, and also, again, the use of AI to help with ransomware attacks. There's already evidence that that's happening. I know that there were some tongue-in-cheek predictions by Professor Daniel Dresner and Chris Hodson just before the holidays, where they've almost envisaged a world in which AI bots take over insurers and send ransomware to each other, and they have a no-fault system of paying up, and that just enriches the bots and drains everyone else's resources. And I know that's a tongue-in-cheek prediction. The rest of theirs are on LinkedIn, by the way. But I think that we are in this whole spiral situation of early adopters of technology are often those using it for bad and not for good. And that's maybe a pessimistic note to end our 10 on, but something that we really ought to be aware of. I think ransomware attacks are going to get more sophisticated because the technology is cheaper and more available.
Yeah, security is always a challenge because there are smart people working on the other side, seeking to create mischief and make money illegally. So
yeah, and it's a truism that they only have to get lucky once, and you have to be lucky all the time.
Exactly right. Well said. Well crystallized. Okay, my friend. Well, this was a good crash course on what might be coming up in 2024. We'll look back on 2024 at the end and see how things matched up. And I want to thank you, Jonathan, for continuing to be my partner in this over the years. We've been doing this for a long time. I hope we continue to. And I think all that remains for me to say is I'm Eric Sinrod in the San Francisco office of Dwayne Morris. I'm at ejsinrod@dwaynemorris.com. Jonathan?
Yeah, and echo that. It's been a great pleasure to do this for many, many years now. And if anyone wants to take issue with our 10 or add some of their own, then they could do that via the LinkedIn group. If you just search LinkedIn for TechLaw10, you should find us. And yeah, all that remains for me to say is Happy New Year to people who are listening or watching. I'm Jonathan.Armstrong at CaudryCompliance.com. We look forward to speaking to you again, maybe in a month or so.
And go blue. That's Michigan. All right, take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.